I know two ways to kill debt fast. One is going to play to your emotion, but the other is going to play to your logic. But my question for you is, which one is best for you personally? Stick around and we'll find out. What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So I am super excited about this conversation on today because this conversation, in my opinion, is a conversation that we need to have. We need to have it with ourselves. We need to have it with our family members, our relatives. We need to have it with everybody. We need to have it with our children. That way our children don't end up in the same state that we're currently in. And, you know, this conversation geared around consumer debt and just debt in general, it's becoming a mainstay in civilization. I remember at one point, I really didn't hear about debt. And now that's all you hear about. You hear about it on the news, you hear about it in conversations, you get on social media, you get on YouTube, you get on the internet, and all you hear about is debt, right? So it's definitely a conversation that we need to have, and I'm definitely super excited to have one today. If you're new to the channel, my ask is that you subscribe to the channel, that you also hit the notification bell. That way you can be notified when a video that we drop comes out. I typically drop videos every Monday and Thursday. My videos typically are regarding transformation, regarding your finances, regarding your personal life with transformation, regarding your 9 to 5, regarding your business if you're trying to start a business, but just transformation in general, trying to help people become a better version of themselves. So with that being said, I'm going to jump right into this conversation. Currently in America, the statistics for American debt is $36 trillion in credit card debt. All right, so let me say that again. In America currently, there is on average, $36 trillion Americans are in credit card debt. On average, every American has roughly $7,000 in credit card debt alone. All right, that's not including personal loans, that's not including student loans, that's not including car loans, mortgage loans. That's just credit card debt. An average is $7,000. When you add into the rest of the debt that most Americans have, that being a home, a car, personal loans, student loans, most Americans have roughly $104,000 in consumer debt. That's most Americans. Some have even more than that. All right, those numbers are astronomical for a society where, you know, we're in a downfall, right? You can almost say that we're headed towards another recession, especially with all the tariff talk and all conversations revolving around tariffs. However, we're definitely in a place where you typically make more money now, right? I remember when I first started working, the average hourly rate was only $7.25. Right now, I believe in America, the average hourly rate is $15 an hour. All right, an employee at the company I work for, a regular hourly employee with no job skills at all, at my employer starts off at $20 an hour on day shift. All right, so we're definitely in a position where we're making more money. However, we're spending more money, right? And we can say that's due to inflation, but it's more to that as well. All right, but this conversation that we're having today isn't about inflation and what we're doing with our money. This conversation is about killing your debt. All right, so for me, there are two main ways on how you can kill your debt. There's two methods, all right? And I'm sure you've heard of the methods. Everybody talks about them. And to me, you want to focus on one. I'm not a believer in one or the other. I'm a believer in do what's best for you. Now, I have the method that I prefer, all right? However, the individuals that I work with and I deal with, I push whatever is best for you. All right, with that being said, the two methods that I want to talk about on how you're able or how you can kill your debt is the snowball method and the avalanche method. All right, those are the two methods in which individuals should be utilizing to pay off their debt. All right, again, that's the snowball method versus the avalanche method. And with these two methods, you will basically start one of these methods and then you would work on paying off debt in a certain way. All right, with the snowball method, we'll touch on the snowball method first. With the snowball method, what you would do is you would take your debt that you have and you would assort it from smallest to largest. All right, doesn't matter what your interest rate is or anything like that. You're just gonna basically look at your debts and create a list from smallest to largest. And then what you would do next with the snowball method is you would basically pay your minimum balance on all of your debts, but on that smallest balance that you have, right? So if you had 5 debts, you had one for $100, one for $1,000, one for $5,000, one for $10,000, and one for $100,000. You would first focus on paying off that one for $100 first. All right. You would make your minimum payment on all 5 debts. However, any additional money that you have coming in, you would use that to pay off that smallest debt first. Once you're done paying off that smallest debt, that's one debt out the way. Congratulations. You are now down to only 4 lines of debt left. All right. So next thing you would do is you're going to focus on that next smallest line of debt. All right. Now that smallest line of debt isn't going to be, I believe I said $1,000 was debt number 2. That debt isn't going to be $1,000 because you've been making your minimum payment on it. However, you're now going to have those 4 lines that you're going to continue making your minimum payment on. But what you're also going to do is you're going to use that money from that original smallest debt to add on top of your regular payment plus whatever additional money you had. All right. So what that means is, let's say hypothetically, all your debts, you're paying $25 a month on them. I know that's not possible, but let's just say for hypothetical purposes, for right now, you're paying $25 on it. So you've paid off the smallest debt. And with you paying off the smallest debt, you now are left with the 4 debts. Now your 4 debts, you're still going to pay your $25. However, you have this additional $25 from that original smallest debt that you're also going to use to pay off that next smallest debt. So now in essence, you're paying $50 on that new smallest debt. And then any additional money, other money, you're also paying on that new smallest debt. And then you're just making your regular minimum payment on the other debts. All right. And then you would just continue to follow that same path. Now, when that next debt is paid off, congratulations. Now you're down to 3 debts. All right. So now you're going to turn that. Remember, you have that first debt that you had, which was $25, and you have that other debt that's $25. Now you have an additional $50 that you're paying on now that third smallest debt, plus any additional money you have. So you would just continue to follow that until your debts are all paid off. All right. The pros to this is you build momentum and motivation with quick wins. A lot of people, they need that gratification that they've hit this milestone. I remember there was a point where I did the snowball method and I loved it because it encouraged me to continue to go forward, right? When you're new to paying on debt and paying off debts, you need to see those wins. So most of the time when you're new to paying on debt and trying to pay off debt, I would always push people to try the snowball method because once you see those quick wins, it's going to encourage you to keep going more. It's going to encourage you to continue to keep going forward. All right. So the snowball method definitely works in giving you that gratification and that burst of energy of man, look what I just did. All right. However, the con to the snowball method is you could end up paying more interest in the long run. All right. That is a con, right? Just being honest, most people don't want to pay the additional money. So the snowball method might not work for you if you're somebody who you don't want to end up with all of this additional interest. However, if you're somebody who needs gratification, the snowball method would work. The next method is the debt avalanche method. All right, with the debt avalanche method, what you want to do is you want to list all your debts from highest to lowest interest rate. All right, what that means is it doesn't matter how much is owed on any of your debts. What you're looking at is the interest rates. So if you have a credit card that's $25,000 that you owe and the interest rate is 29%, and you have your car that's only $10,000 with a 5% interest rate, and you have your student loans that's $100,000 with a 3% interest rate, you're gonna pay on the credit card first versus the car loan or the student loan. Regardless of which one is the most, regardless of which one is easier to get paid off, you're gonna focus on the debt that has the highest interest rate. What you're gonna do is the same thing. You're gonna make minimum payments. You're gonna make all your minimum payments on all your debts. Any extra money, you're going to now pay on that highest interest rate debt. All right, so the debt that has the highest interest rate, you're gonna basically just go at it. You're gonna just go at it, drum beat it down to where you get it paid off as quick as possible. You getting it paid off as quick as possible will cause you to save the most amount of money. All right, because the longer that you have that debt and the higher the interest rate is, the more money you're paying out to the bank, the creditor, the debt agency, whoever. All right, so you want to focus on getting that debt paid off as soon as possible. You do that, you save the most interest. And then in the same thing with the snowball method, you're going to do the same thing with the avalanche method. Once you're done paying off that debt, now you're going to move on to the next debt with the same interest or with the next highest interest rate. And what you're going to do is that money that you are using to pay off that first debt, you're going to put that money with your second next highest debt. That way you can get that one paid off as quick as possible, and then so on and so forth. By doing that, you're going to save interest, which you're going to save money, and then you're going to get your debts paid off. All right. The pros to this is you will save the most money. It's also mathematically faster. However, the con is you may not see progress as quick. All right. You may take a little bit of time to see progress. So that is a con for it. For me, I prefer the avalanche method. However, my suggestion to anybody who's trying to get out of debt is you have to do what's best for you, but you got to focus on getting out of debt. Nobody can tell you which method is best for you. Nobody can tell you do the snowball, do the debt avalanche. Like, there's so many people, and it's like we're torn because there's so many people that says, oh, the snowball method is the way to go. It's a way to go. It's not the method to go. The avalanche method, it's not the way to go. It's a way to go. You have to look at what is best for you and your lifestyle. What's best for you and your scenario. And then whichever one is best for you and your scenario, stick to it. That is my advice. Stick to whichever plan and whichever method is best for you. If you start something, finish it. Because I promise you, if you finish it, you will get to the end zone. And when you get to the end zone, meaning you get to the point where you're out of debt, you're going to be able to take your life back. All right? You're going to be able to no longer be basically a prisoner to these agencies. You're not going to be a prisoner to your job to the point where I have to work because if I don't work, I can't pay off this debt. Me personally, I can say that for the longest, I wouldn't take outside of work trips. I wouldn't vacation because I wanted to pay off all my debt. And for me, it's like, I don't want to come back. I don't want to go on vacation and use that money. And then I got to come back to bills and just more money that I have to come up with. So I got to work harder, work more hours, work overtime, whatever. Like when I was in that situation, I did not want to do that. So I literally eliminated everything. So that would be the next thing I would tell you to do while you're on your debt repayment journey. Try to eliminate as many expenses as possible, right? You may not be able to eliminate your rent, your mortgage. If you have a big family, you may not be able to go into a smaller apartment. If you are already on a budget for your groceries, you may not be able to eliminate any more money because you're already on a small budget for his groceries. But what you can do is you can eliminate your social life for a while. And what I mean by eliminate your social life for a while, your friends, your buddies may tell you, hey, let's go out. Let's go out to the club. Let's go out to the bar. Let's go out here. Let's take a trip. My siblings for the last 2 years have gone on cruises every year. I've declined to go. The reason I've declined to go is because my focus and my priorities are different than my siblings' priorities. My priorities have been getting out of debt. So for me, to you, you got to look at your personal life. You got to look at what are the priorities for you. But I can promise you, I can guarantee it, once you're out of debt, you will have your freedom back. All right? With that being said, if you stuck around this long, definitely appreciate it. My ask is that you definitely leave a comment. Make sure you like the video. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell. And we'll see you on the next one. Later.